Hello and welcome. My name is Martin. I am the Great Potato Mage, and this is the Great Potato Mage Makes. In this little episode, what I'm going to be doing is making a vegan, whole foods, plant-based shakshuka. Now, obviously being whole foods, plant-based, we can't make a normal shakshuka, which involves poaching eggs in the tomato sauce. But we can get pretty close and we can make some substitutions and mess around with things a little bit just to come up with something that's pretty good. And I think I've actually managed to do a pretty good job. I really do. So, first up is just the sort of basic version of a shakshuka. This is pretty much following a recipe that I found online on a random web page or two, sort of cobbled together from those sources without too much in the way of substitution. There's no oil, as I say, there's no eggs, nothing like that. It's just vegetables all the way through. I'm going to serve that one with rice. The second one that I make is actually a lot more in line with my personal taste. So there's a lot more chilies, there's a lot more spiciness. There's slightly different spice mix, things like that. There's a lot more vegetables as well, some extra peppers and some kidney beans and that sort of thing. So I hope that you will stick around for both. I really hope that you enjoy watching them. I hope that you enjoy making them. And the second one is actually what I'm going to be bringing along to the Jaroudi family. Potluck, the virtual potluck that Brittany Jaroudi and Mark Jaroudi are running on Google Hangouts, I believe, on YouTube, things like that, on Saturday the 11th. I'm going to pop up their little title card here. This is when it is. This is what we're all doing. The idea is you make a dish, you bring it to the virtual potluck. I'm going to share this recipe now, well beforehand, so if it is possible for you to make it, if you have these ingredients in your pantry, you can throw something together, make any substitutions for things that I've used that you like, and if you can safely acquire the ingredients, if you haven't got them, maybe an online shop or something like that, please feel free, take a look, have a go, make something. Right, that is more than enough preamble. Let's get into cooking. Ready? Yeah, cool. Now that we've added a little bit of colour to the onions, we're going to sprinkle in around about a teaspoon of cumin powder and about a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Add a little bit of water to this just to help free everything, make sure that it's stirring nicely while we saute it. Oh, a little bit more. You should be able to get the colour of those spices all over the onions and ensure that they're cooking evenly. Now it's time for a bit of tomato paste. This is around about a tablespoon, I think. It's not exact, so I could be wrong on that. Just a splash more water. Everything is getting a little bit dry in the pan now. We don't want anything burning, we just want colour. With that quick little flash forward, you can now see that everything's incorporated, everything's looking really, really awesome as a base. Now it's time to add in the rest of the ingredients. We're going to start with the chickpeas with the harissa spice mixed into them in the can. Just make sure that I've got all the chickpeas out there. Now it's time to open up the tin of tomatoes. These have spice in as well. These are usually used for making chili, things like that. But in this case, I thought it wouldn't be too bad of an idea. This pretty much takes the place of adding in cayenne pepper in this version of the shakshuka. Add a little bit of water to the can, give it a quick swill, make sure we get as much of the tomato sauce into the pan as we can. And into the recycling. Now we've got our jar of olives. I've already drained these. These are pitted, but then filled with a chili paste. You can use black or green, basically so long as they're pitted, it's absolutely fine. You don't need filled ones or anything like that. I'll just stir these around, get everything incorporated, and let the vinegar from the olives start to add into the dish. Now we've got a bit of a change of camera angle. We're going to drop a little bit of water in, make sure that the pan is nice and hot. That's my usual test, just to see if it's ready. I'm going to drop in these 5 discs of eggplant. Just make sure that they're flat, level in the base of the pan. Oh, and I forgot about the black salt. So black salt, basically because of the high sulfur content, actually tastes a little bit of egg. Just drop a little bit on the aubergine here, on the eggplant. And it's gonna fry on the opposite side, without any oil, without any water, anything like that. And then in a little bit, I'll flip it. Add in the coriander leaves, fresh coriander leaves, just torn apart and dropped in. Stir those gently. We're not wanting to break them apart too much. We just want to fold them in. Get them nice and evenly distributed. Here we go. It's time to flip, and as you can see, they've got some nice colour on them. It's definitely a good start. There's that extra little sprinkling of black salt that I told you about. Not terribly exact on exactly how much that I used. Final flip. They've had another couple of minutes. This is probably a mistake that I'm making here, just dropping in that little bit of water just to help get some colour, some caramelization off the bottom of the pan and onto the eggplant. It basically made the centers go a little bit too soft, start collapsing. Didn't really have the desired effect, but I don't know. It worked out okay. Apart from that, they would probably have ended up going a little bit soft in the actual shakshuka in a minute anyway. So it's not the end of the world.
Sometimes mistakes happen. And we just roll with the punches. Here I'm going to lay them on top of the shakshuka. Once they're all in, sort of evenly placed around the dish, I'm going to just press them down ever so slightly, just so that they're about level with the rest of the liquid. It's not quite poaching an egg in them, but you know, we can let them absorb as much juice without discoloring them or anything like that. It's time to get the rice out. There we go. And plating up. I think a grand total of around about 3 minutes. The slices of eggplant were just nestled on the top there. Heated through some pita breads. And there we go. Job done.
And there we go, that's the first one out the way with. Now we're going to make the second shakshuka. This one's the one that I've made literally today, within the last couple of hours before recording this section of the video. It's really, really incredible. It definitely has a kick, I'll tell you that. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Here is some red peppers. I'm not entirely sure how spicy they are, so I'm not going to use too many of those. We've got a yellow pepper, which is not too bad. German, that you can see on the packet there, mittelscharf, basically just means it's mildly spicy. Germans aren't very big fans of spice, so they tend to overrate things. But, you know, you can make this as hot as you like. We've got a red onion, a shallot, and a white/yellow onion, 3 cloves of garlic, some fresh coriander. We've got a good knife, like that knife. We've got a brand new spatula, because why not? Got a little bit of water in a measuring jug. That's for sautéing and that sort of thing. We've got some measuring teaspoons, spoons, tablespoons, etc. Tomato paste. We're definitely going to need that at the beginning. We've got some black salt. This basically gives things an eggy flavour because it's got a lot of sulphur in it. That is going to be used for the eggplant. Actual proper shakshuka is you poach eggs in the spicy sauce. Because we're not going to be using eggs, we're going to get a little bit of that flavour using that and you know, sort of fudge it a little bit. Cayenne pepper. We've got some turmeric, some cumin powder, and this is a little bit of smoked paprika. On the opposite side of the sink here, we've got a can of Italian tomatoes, you know, sort of crushed tomatoes. It's got some spicy chili in it, that's what piquant means. It's not too bad, it's probably what you would use for a chili, but like I said, I'm a spice fiend, so I'm going to have some of that. This is a pack of chickpeas, or Kichererbsen, garbanzo beans, and this also is pre-spiced. This actually has harissa spice in it. Now harissa, according to the great and esteemed Alton Brown of Good Eats fame, is actually the spice that a proper authentic shakshuka should be made with. So this was a really lucky find. This was out of a supermarket called Real, I do believe. And finally we've got this pack of bell pepper strips from red, green and yellow. I didn't put any of these in the first one, but I'm going to throw them in this one just because why not? And there's only one more which I actually forgot to take out, so we're going to grab those now. Alright, that took longer than I would like to actually admit to. I came over here, looked through all of this shelf, looked through the stuff downstairs, and they were right here. It's a can of kidney beans. Now, the first recipe I made didn't include kidney beans, but it did include olives. I don't have any olives anymore because I used them all in that first batch, so I'm going to put in some of these because I distinctly remember having these in the shakshuka that we had in Nottingham when I was with Jessica and Brian Croc from Crocs in the Kitchen. So, I'm going to do some of these in there. You can omit them, you can put them in, you can put in olives. Shakshuka is essentially just a mix. It doesn't necessarily mean follow the recipe exactly, I don't think. Not with regards to spices and that sort of thing, anyway. This feels like it's getting nice and warm, so I'm going to do my little test. Drop a tiny little bit of water in, and if it chases itself around the pan, like that, that means it's ready. So let's throw in our onions, all of them all in one. Give the bowl a little scrape. What we're going to do with the onions is just let them start getting a little bit soft, just separate a little bit, and then we're going to put in the garlic and the chilies. Thanks, Rowan. Interestingly, most shakshuka recipes that I could find used brown sugar to help with browning off the onions. Now, as you can see, we don't really need any help with browning them. In fact, I might even put in a little bit of water just before we throw in the garlic, just to get a little bit more of that caramelization off the bottom of the pan. Just deglaze ever so slightly. There we go, that's looking pretty good. Let's throw in all our garlic. I'm definitely not going to stick my hand in there because of all those chilies. We want those flavours. We're going to want all those flavours to start mixing together. I'm going to want this fairly spicy, so feel free to, change the amount of chilies and peppers and all that sort of thing to your liking. But I'm going to make this pretty spicy. this point I'm going to put in the spice mix. There we go. I'm going to make sure everything gets nice and coated with that. Just really, really quick around the pan. As you can see, it's sticking ever so slightly to liquid that's on the bottom of the pan there, so we're going to give it a quick blast just to toast it and coat everything. And then we're going to big splash, just get everything in. You can see that wonderful colour. Not bad for a couple of minutes work, is it? I'm gonna there we go. That looks okay to me. I'm gonna mix all together once again. Time for our frozen peppers to go in. This one's going to be a lot more packed full of veg than the other one was. I actually thought that I didn't make enough in that first batch, so I've kind of bulked everything up that little bit. And a bit of water because it's a bit warm in here now. Lovely. This is a really bad habit. I keep on moving stuff around when I probably should leave it. There we go. So this is the chickpeas, and without much ceremony, just going to turn this pan on here because we're going to do the eggplant in a moment. That is pretty much everything. I'm just going to tiny blub. Just makes you go, oh, hello. Whatever you do, don't inhale just after you put water or any sort of liquid into a spicy dish. That only ends badly. There we go, there's our chickpeas in the harissa. Let's just combine that all in. Go. throw in the kidney beans. And finally, some spicy tomatoes. I just want to make sure I get all of that, so another little splash. Give it a quick stir around, and there we go. Cans in the recycling. Combine it all together. Because essentially this is just a stew. It's a stew that technically we should be poaching eggs in if we were making it properly, but I'm not too fussed. Okay, we'll leave that on the high heat just to get a little bit developed, and then I'll knock it down ever so slightly so it just simmers away. In the meantime, how's that doing? Whoops. Helps if you don't move the camera in the middle of everything, doesn't it? I just didn't want to start melting the feet. There we go. Right, let's get this. Hey, hello. That'll wake you up a bit. So this is just the eggplant with a little bit of soy sauce and some black salt on it. I know that seems kind of silly given two different types of salt on it, but really the soy sauce was just to make everything stick to it and dissolve that black salt ever so slightly. I could have put in some liquid aminos, but I don't have them. I could have put in some Worcester sauce, but I don't know, it just felt like it would take away from the flavour that little bit too much if I started messing around with, you know, sort of these other spice mixes. I want this to be fairly neutral, apart from the chilies. I really want to sort of see how things go. I do remember I was going to put a little bit of some rum or something in here, some vodka or something, just to neutralise the spice a little bit, but well, I forgot to do that, so we're going to live dangerously. There we go, this is literally just getting a little bit of colour on the sides. Maybe even a little bit too much in some cases. But then, after we've done this little blast in here, just got a little bit of colour on. And a little bit of crispiness. We're going to turn that off. Give this a final mix through with our coriander. And then, now that's in there. Take this, drop it all on top, spread it ever so slightly. Don't need to be particularly fussed about it, and just squash everything down that little bit. Just a tiny little bit, just to coat the edges in sauce, that sort of thing. There we go. And now I'm going to leave that for a little bit until I feel like it's cooked. So what I'm now going to do is put on some bit of bread and heat through the couscous. Sounds good to me. Once we've done that, that should be absolutely everything. I'll check back in a second. And we're back. It's only been maybe about 5 minutes at most, 10. So like probably about 5 to 7 minutes. And everything is absolutely perfect. I'm just going to turn that off, bring in the bowl here. So here we've got some couscous that I made earlier and have just reheated. It should be absolutely fine with this. We've got some of our wonderful shakshuka. I'm just going to pull this out. Layer this in. I do have fairly large portions, so don't feel like this is in any way normal or what you should be having. I really quite like dipping in the sauce as well, which is why I've got these 3 pitas. There we go. And what I'm going to do now, just to finish off, if I could get in. A little bit of lemon juice. I'm just gonna squeeze that on. If you want to squeeze on a fresh lemon, by all means. Me, I don't have any, so I'm gonna use that. Right. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll do the shot of me eating it and tasting it and all of that, and do the wrap up and everything in a bit. See you in a mo. And there we have it. That is Shakshuka 2 different ways. As I said, that second version is going to be the one that I cook for the virtual potluck on Saturday, the 11th of April. That's this coming Saturday on a Google Hangout and YouTube with the Jaroudi family. So really, really hope that we see you there. Bring along a dish of your own, or one that I've made, or one that you found somewhere else on the internet, and hopefully it's going to be a really fun little time. So, hope to see you then. Please stay safe in all that you do, and see you next time.